Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make some Easter tokens. We are always looking for things to put in our Easter eggs that are not candy, and I actually came across this on Etsy and I thought this was a brilliant idea. So I thought this would be a great project to try out on my Cricut. So let's get started. I'm going to show you how we design the tokens in Cricut Design Space, and then we'll cut it out and I'll talk about some tips and tricks on that portion there. So the first thing we're going to do is create our shape. I'm going to be using the shapes panel here, and I'm going to select the circle. Now I've seen other shapes, so you can make it like an egg shape, or you can even make it a bunny if you want to, but the circle just seemed the easiest to design and make, and I know it's going to fit in the egg quite easily. Now this may vary based on the eggs that you are using. So I'm using ones that I just bought from Michael's, and they fit in, like, I would call it the regular size egg. I know they make like larger eggs and there's like teeny tiny ones too. This is kind of like the normal size ones that you find at most places. So I'm going to be basing my measurements off that, but do adjust your measurements based on this the egg that you are using to make sure that it actually fits in your egg. So I am using the circle, and the final size that I kind of want it to be is 1.5 inches for both ways. That's the size that fit pretty well in the egg when I was testing it. But we don't need to worry about that just yet, because we are going to do our design first, and then we'll just resize everything when we're ready for that stage. So the first thing I'm going to do is do our design. It's a pretty simple design that I'm using, and it's just like a small ring on the outside that we're going to draw on our tokens. In order to do that, we are going to use our offset function. So if you head up to the top panel here, you'll see the offset function here, and you want to click on that, and we're going to just kind of create a ring around it. I was playing with the numbers, and I think I liked around here. So about 0.09, roughly, I would say it's a pretty good size. I'm going to hit apply, and you can see that it gave a little ring around it. So what we're actually looking for when I'm creating this size is actually the distance between the inner circle and the outer circle. So if you want like a much smaller ring, then you can definitely create a bigger offset. Otherwise, I think this is a pretty good distance for drawing that outer ring on. So I'm actually going to grab both layers. And so whenever you want to highlight multiple layers, I'm holding Shift on my MacBook here, and I'm pretty sure that's the same on Windows, and that'll select more than one layer. And I'm going to go over here to select a color, and I'm actually going to make both of these white, just to make it a little bit easier to see when we place our text on these tokens. Next, I'm going to take my outer ring. You can always check which one is which by kind of flagging the visible eye icon here. And I want my outer ring. That is going to remain as a cut, because that is what we're cutting out as a token. And my inner ring is going to be a draw, because we want our Cricut pen to actually draw that border onto the token. Next, we are going to add the text. So heading back over to the left panel here, you'll see the text button. If you click on that, you'll see some text pops up. And let's just add our first one. Let's do extra bedtime story. So I'm just actually going to use my caps lock and start typing. Cool. I'm going to change the font because the Cricut Sans is not a great font for writing. So the one I am going to use is a font that I have downloaded called Print Clearly. I will have links in the description down below for where you can find all of these things. So I'm going to select that, and that changed it there. So you can see it's a thinner font, which is perfect, because when it's too thick, it's going to look a little odd and you'll have to kind of fill it in. So this is a great one for this project. Next, I'm going to shrink down my text so that it actually fits in the text box here. Let's move that over a little bit. Okay, now I'm purposefully going to not center this because I want to show you guys something. So let's just drag it over there. You could try to manually center this on each and every icon, but it's kind of a pain in the butt. And there is a Cricut function that can make this a lot easier for you. I am going to highlight all the layers here. So you can manually click these layers, or you can just do what I did and just drag kind of a box over it, and it will highlight everything. And I'm going to head up here to our top panel, and there's a function called Align. So we are going to click on that, and we are going to click Center Horizontally. And you'll see that it automatically centered the text based on the boundary box here, which is the larger circle. And I'm going to hit that again, and I'm going to select Center Vertically, which will make sure that it's also, there we go, that it's also centered perfectly vertically to our circle as well. So this is a nice quick trick, so you don't have to manually be eyeballing it going, oh my god, is that in the center of my token? It makes it a lot easier. It'll just auto lock and do that for you. Now, one last thing before we move on, we need to change our text layer here. So right now it is set to cut, which is not what we want. We want our pen to draw, so we're going to head back over to the operation panel. We're going to go to the drop down and go to draw, pen. And you'll see it looks a little bit different like that. It just kind of made like a darker looking font there. All right, so we've got our first token here. Now we want to group it together because we're going to have so many of these. It's going to be very confusing very fast, which token belongs to what and what circles belong to what. So we're going to grab all those layers again, and we are going to go down to this panel here and hit Attach. Basically what this does is it kind of groups it together so that, well, two things happen. One is that it tells Cricut that the text and the circles need to be arranged distance-wise, just like this. Otherwise, you might have like your text all over here to print and your other circle over here to cut. That's like Cricut doesn't know what you're trying to tell to do. So this way it's telling you these pieces belong together and this is how they should be arranged. We can also rename this layer. So right now this layer is just called Attach. Okay, this little group of layers. So if we double click on this, we can rename this layer to anything we want. I'm going to call this Extra Bedtime Story, just to keep track of which tokens we've got on the screen here. Now the final thing we're going to do is resize it. So now it's the perfect time to resize it. We have a design that we like. We have a font that fits on our token. Everything's perfectly aligned. So now we can go ahead and resize it. I'm going to go up here to the top again, and here it says size. You can literally type in here the size that you want. So I'm going to do 1.5. I'm going to hit enter. You'll see that the height is also automatically adjusted because it is a square shape. If you were to click on this lock icon here, it would allow you to change the portion so that it's not proportional to your current image. Okay, we don't want that. We want this to remain a square, so we are going to leave that lock button on. Next, I'm actually going to zoom in here now. So right now we're viewing at 100%, but as you notice, it's kind of gotten much smaller because our token is quite small. I'm going to zoom in again so it's a little bit easier to work with. Perfect. All right, so now we can start making more tokens. We're going to grab this token, all the layers in this token. We're going to right click and we are going to duplicate. All right, so now you've got one there, and it's just easier personally. I find it personally easier just to have a few going on here. So I'm going to copy these. You can right click and do this, or I'm just using my Command C, Command V functions on my MacBook. So whatever your copy and paste functions are. Okay, and I'm going to do 4 across because that's a good size for my screen. If you are using the 1.5 inch discs and you are using the 11 by 11 chipboard, that is a Cricut brand chipboard, you can fit 36 circles on one board. So that's what I ended up doing. So you can actually do that right now. You can just copy all these, and let's just create more layers until we have that number. So we're going to highlight all these and just make things go a little bit faster here. All right, now we've got 36 there. The next thing I am going to do now is start changing the text on each of these so that we have more tokens. All right, so once we've gone ahead and updated the text and all the tokens, I'm actually going to go ahead back to our layers panel, and I'm going to click on each token and update the name of this grouping here. So if we need to go back, we'll know exactly which set we need to access to make changes. Awesome. Now I'm going to go one by one and center my text again using our align panel up here. So when you click on the grouping of the attached layers, it's not actually going to allow you to align it. Unfortunately, you actually have to click on all the layers in that grouping separately in order for it to align. So you can't just like mass do it by clicking on the grouping. You have to do a few more clicks to make it work. And the other thing we wanted to keep an eye on is if we go back now, for some reason it doesn't remember that it was a draw instead of a cut. So we want to make sure that the text layers here are actually on draw and not basic cut, because otherwise it's going to try to cut out these letters instead of actually drawing them onto our tokens. So we're going to double check that as we go through this. That's good. And we'll have another easier way to kind of double check that when I get to the end. So I'm going to speed things up here as I quickly center all of these. All right, I'm going to purposefully leave a few of the layers wrong so I can show you how you can make a check before you go to cut this. All right, so if we go to make it now, okay, well, we've got a blank one here, which I don't know what happened there. We'll have to take a look, but I'm going to zoom right in. Okay, and you can see here that movie night is a little bit different. So if it is actually going to be writing with the pen function, it'll be a darker black. But if it's set to cut incorrectly, it will show an outline here. So we know that we need to go back and fix that before we cut it out. Otherwise, it's actually just going to cut out the letters, which is really going to mess up our project. So I'm going to head back. I'm going to go find movie night. And as you can see, it does say basic cut. So we don't want that. We're going to head back over to operation and go to pen so that it'll draw that on. And I think there was another one. I'm not sure why that didn't show up properly on the other screen, but this one needs to be changed as well. And again, if you want to take a moment to just go through, it's probably safer that way anyways, to make sure everything is set to draw. Okay, so I've got all 36 now on my matte preview. I'm going to select the material size so that it is 11 by 11, because that is how big the chipboard is that Cricut comes with. And the next thing I'm going to do is highlight everything. I'm actually going to center it a bit more in the actual center of this 11 by 11 because I'm going to be taping down this chipboard. So I want to make sure that it actually has a little bit more room for the painter's tape that I'm going to be using. So I will have a list of all of these tokens over at my blog, so it'll be easier for you to copy and paste when you create your own tokens. And I'm going to warn you right now that the cutting process for this project is going to take probably around 1 to 2 hours. I didn't realize it was going to be 12 passes with chipboard, but it does take quite a while. Maybe stick around for the first pass to make sure everything is going smoothly, and then have yourself a coffee or go have something to eat, because it is going to be a while before this project is done. But I promise it will be worth it. So next we're going to head to continue. And I found that the Cricut chipboard worked very well with this project and with the settings as well. So I'm just going to go to browse all materials, and I'm going to grab that chipboard function. And I just use the basic. I didn't do anything extra to this. I gave you some instructions here letting you know that you should push the wheels all the way to the right, and then you should use material that is no wider than 11 inches, which if you are using the Cricut brand chipboard, it is not larger than 11 inches, so you're fine in that sense. And then make sure you are using the strong grip mat. This is the purple mat, because chipboard is pretty heavy and you don't want it sliding on your project. That'll just completely ruin everything. And you'll be using masking tape. I use painter's tape for a lot of my Cricut projects, and we'll be using the painter's tape to tape it down on all 4 sides of the mat just to give it some extra support. And you would just follow along with the instructions here. So next is telling you to load the pen into clamp A and the knife blade into clamp B. And this is for, again, the chipboard with the Cricut Maker. If you do not have a Cricut Maker, you can still do this project. You would just be using a different material instead. So you could do cardstock, you could do laminated cardstock, you can use construction paper, which probably isn't as sturdy, but it's an option. So you really don't need to use chipboard. So let's go ahead and cut these out, and I will see you over at the mat. So we've finally cut out all these pieces. It did take, again, I think it was about 2 hours. I lost track of time. I went to go watch some TV while it was cutting it out. But yeah, from this point on, it's pretty easy. It pops right off the mat. All of them just kind of come out. So we can start putting them into our eggs and get ready for our Easter egg hunt. Well, I hope you liked this video. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any new ones. Until next time, bye!